The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
Hey everybody, this is Alex doing a Sean Conti impression because he's still not here. And welcome back to the Hog Sty. This is a good episode. I don't know why the other guys are out, Steve.
I think I do. I think Sean
because we're going to be talking about the
is,
Combine, which is a lot of fun to talk
I think
about.
Sean Conti's passed away, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I think he's not with this, not on the earth anymore.
I mean, we've gotten one text from him in the last 2 weeks, you and I. So.
Exactly. I mean, I really think he's dead. Jamal, I know, is not dead. Sean, I think
Jamal's hungover. He might wish he was dead.
Yeah. Sean, I'm not so sure. We love you, Sean. Wherever you are, come back home. Come.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. We've talked about this. He does this every year right after the season.
Yeah, it gets so bad. I think we contacted his parents one time, didn't we?
Yeah, it did.
And they were.
I think that's when he ended up moving to Colorado without telling anybody.
That's people. You don't understand what we go through. We had one of these, Sean Conti sabbaticals, and then when we surfaced, he was in Colorado.
Yeah, he moves half the country away just on a whim.
Yeah, we love Sean.
So we do, but it's not as good of a show without him, in my opinion. Well, anyway. We got a big day, so it's not. We're not here to talk about Sean, because we're here to talk about football, and there's a lot of football things to talk about today for the Redskins. I think topic 1A for us, Steve, is going to be quarterbacks.
Why is that?
Because that's what we need. It's the most fun position to talk about, and there's been a bunch of rumors about the Redskins and quarterbacks. Prospects and possible trades and all sorts of crazy things that might happen with the Redskins at the quarterback position.
Can we dispense with the dumbest one first, please?
Which one's the dumbest one? Because there's some dumb ones.
Joe Flacco one is the dumbest one.
Oh, yes. The Joe Flacco one is the dumbest one. Sure. You want to?
Yeah, okay. So the rumor was that before Joe Flacco was traded to the Broncos, and we realized this didn't happen this past week, okay, but the rumor was floated around pretty recently. The rumor was that the Redskins were all involved in Joe Flacco and tried to trade for him. Bruce Allen in his presser at the Combine denied this and said we were never involved in Flacco. However, there's been a lot of beat writers, and the story I'm looking at right now is Kareem Copeland with the Washington Post, who we don't really know, but, I mean, he's a credible reporter. He's saying that he's got sources to say the Redskins were very involved right up to the point and that the Broncos closed the deal with the Ravens. It's insane because the Redskins, if there's an opposite of can afford, that's something more than can't afford. Something, an adjective that's more descriptive than that. That's what the Redskins have. Joe Flacco has got the worst contract in the NFL, and you're going to trade for that contract for a guy who's old and mediocre.
Old and mediocre, can't really move in the pocket, and his arm is okay, not elite. He's
got a big arm. I mean, but I don't think he's an elite quarterback. He was propped up by the Ravens defense for a long time, I think. It's just such a very, very, very Redskins thing. That's why I believe it ultimately. It's just a very Bruce Allen, Dan Snyder thing.
It's a terrible idea, and as we always say, think of the worst idea, and that's the Redskins plan.
Yeah, that literally the worst idea I could think of that's in any way rational would be Joe Flacco. For the Redskins quarterback this year. And, of course, that's what the Redskins did. And I don't believe a word Bruce Allen says. I mean, the man's a liar.
No. No, and we're going to talk a little bit more about his press conference later because there's some stuff to make fun of.
So can we just dispense with that and say if they thought about that, stop thinking. Yeah. It's the dumbest idea ever. They can't come close to affording Joe Flacco, and we wouldn't want Joe Flacco, more importantly.
Thank goodness John Elway might be the only GM who's dumber than our front office, and he traded for Flacco instead.
Yeah, I don't...
That's what
I think it's ironic that John Elway's so awful at evaluating quarterbacks.
I don't think it is. It's that classic, he was elite, so he doesn't understand people who aren't elite.
I guess it's like Magic Johnson coaching the Lakers.
Right. Right.
Didn't go well.
It's exactly what it is. Guys who just have natural talent don't always understand how to develop lesser
What do you
people.
mean you can't do a no-look behind your back pass? I mean, come on.
Right, right. What do you mean you can't throw off your front foot falling forward as you're scrambling outside the pocket to avoid a
50
safety?
yards downfield.
Right.
I guess that's
Exactly.
probably it. But anyway, we thank God that didn't happen. Flacco is safely ensconced in Denver, where he belongs, which is anywhere but D.C.
Okay, so let's talk about something that might happen. And this was the big talk yesterday I saw on Twitter.
Yesterday being the Saturday, since
Saturday, yes, Saturday. I forget we should not say yesterday. We should use dates.
we're trying to be professional here, Alex.
Right. Trying is always the key word. So the big rumor was that we've all heard that the Cardinals might actually go for Murray, number 1 overall, and already move on from Josh Rosen. And I saw it reported by NBC, but I think it started out with some kind of draft sports betting Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Somebody said that he heard the Redskins openly were talking about what would it take to get Josh Rosen from the Cardinals in that case. And Steve, you and I are both kind of pro Josh Rosen, I think, overall as a prospect. What did you think about that when you heard it? And I mean, I hate to bring up the what would you trade for him? What's the highest you'd go?
I can
but
talk about that. First of all, I'd take
Sure.
Josh Rosen in a split second. Number one, I think, yes, he did badly in Arizona this year. There's no doubt.
absolutely not a good rookie year.
But Arizona had a horrible offensive line.
Yep.
David Johnson was there and had a weirdly odd year. It's probably because the Cardinals had, a terrible coach and didn't know how to use him properly. There's a reason why they have a new coach, this year. And, God bless Bruce Arians, but I mean, it didn't work. Rosen was the number 1 quarterback on the board to me last year. And the reason is,
Right.
and I know all you Baker Mayfield guys out there, don't agree, and that's fine. I don't really care, quite frankly. But to me, Josh Rosen was the most pro-ready. He played under center some at UCLA. He's a classic pocket passing quarterback. If that's not what Cliff Kingsbury wants in Arizona, fine. He's going to install the Texas Tech air raid offense, presumably. I get it. But to me, Rosen fits with what Jay Gruden wants to do. He's a pocket guy, quick release. Yes, he needs to get better. Yes, he needs to do better. But I would.
He's a cerebral guy, which we know Jay loves.
And he has a little bit of a weird bad attitude. Understand that. That's
right.
true. And he's pretty arrogant. I mean, it came across in college. It really did. There were like photos of him in hot tubs with women and stuff, and it just kind of rubbed people the wrong way.
I don't remember that
It was
at
something
all.
like that. But I may be wrong about that. But point is, yes, he's got a.
First off, he played college in California. What quarterback who plays college in California, even at like a third-rate college, isn't in a hot tub with a bunch of women?
Yeah, and that came across kind of wrong. I mean, because there's nothing wrong with being in a hot tub with women, but he rubbed some people wrong at UCLA. Is my point.
Yes, yeah. I remember he rubbed some people the wrong way, and I remember him having some bad interviews.
Right.
He pouted when he was taken at 10 or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I would feel totally comfortable in trading this. I wouldn't want to, of course, but I would feel comfortable trading this year's number 1 pick for to get Josh Rosen.
So the 15th pick overall, straight up for Josh Rosen. Would you go more than that?
We don't. Well, you mean more picks?
Yeah.
I mean,
like if they said 15 and a third round pick or
not.
something like that.
I mean, because I'm not all about. I think this year we need talent.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, so I hate to give up a number 1 pick. Just, I don't think anyone wants to do that because, that's a guy you control and it's a talent. But it's not a bad deal. And you look at the other quarterbacks, and we'll talk about them, I think, next.
We have a poll, by the way, about this.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. But you look at the other quarterbacks in this draft, and if you're like, all right, who's Rosen worse than? He's probably on the level of Haskins.
I mean, I would
Murray,
rank him as
different skill set, probably same caliber overall.
I mean, I would rank.
I know you're not a Murray guy.
Well, it's not that I'm not a Murray guy. I think he has limitations. We're going to get to that, and I think he's a risk. And I don't think he fits with the Redskins very well.
I mean, all quarterbacks are a risk.
I think he's
at some
a much
point.
bigger risk to me. But if Rosen's coming out in this class, he'd be my number 1.
I mean, I think it's safe to say he's better than Locke, Jones. To me, he's probably he'd be 1, 2, or 3 somewhere in there.
He would be my number one to me. He's more like a Dwayne Haskins this year because Dwayne Haskins is very pro ready. He plays more
similar skill sets.
So to me, those two are kind of similar. I thought Rosen looked a lot smoother in the pocket at UCLA, not in Arizona. So most of you out there would not do that. Most of you out there just see the Arizona, film from last year. I mean, I get it. It didn't look good. But what quarterback looks good in his rookie year? Most of them don't. Baker Mayfield happened to look good last year. Congratulations. But most of them, frankly, don't look very good in their first year. I mean, Peyton Manning didn't really look that good.
Terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the Hall of Fame quarterbacks that you can go through a list of, guys from the 80s and 90s who were all awful. Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Elway, I think, struggled his first year, didn't he?
That's getting pretty far back for me. Okay. Elway was a guy.
There's a bunch of them from back then.
Yeah, but Elway was a guy very early on you knew had it, though. I'll say that much.
Yeah, of course. But same with Manning. Same with a lot of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, Manning, Peyton Manning, at least, you just knew back in his rookie year that he was going to be good. He just needed to improve. That having been said, did Josh Rosen look like that last year? No. But, here's the thing. When you trade for a contract, the guarantees don't follow, all the time. And so what you end up getting is a Josh Rosen on a cheaper contract with a fifth year
I think
option.
it's $2 million a year is what we'd get him for.
Yeah, basically because, the guarantees don't come with him. So you'd be getting a guy on a sweetheart deal that still has a fifth year option, attached to it. So, I mean, you couldn't go wrong. This is, I think it'd be a great first round pick. It'd be a quarterback.
I think that if that scenario plays out, I'll be okay with it. I don't love, like I said, I never loved trading away a first-round pick. If you could somehow get them for like a second and a fifth or something, I'd rather do that. But
yeah, of course. I mean, if you could get him for a second, obviously. I don't think the Redskins should just throw out their first-round pick necessarily. Here's, and I've heard this kind of off the record too. The Redskins, and this is not breaking news, but the Redskins desperately want to make a splash. I think that they are smart enough to know, at least smart enough to know that they lost their entire fan base, they lost their audience. Nobody cares about this team. This is the whole reason why Rick Snyder changed the show. Because he recognizes the same thing too. And based on our numbers, we see that too. You guys aren't listening to this show as much as you did back when it was, the team was good and everything.
Yeah, 2 years ago we were pulling in about double these.
Yeah, and it's not it's not us, it's you. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. But my point is the Redskins want to make a splash. And so bringing in another quarterback is a way to make a splash. Joe Flacco would make a splash, the wrong kind of splash. It's kind of like the belly flop into the pool, a little bit. But they want to do something big for marketing reasons. And so bringing in Josh Rosen, I think, would be one way to do it. There's a lot of other ways.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, let's talk about some of the quarterbacks. If this doesn't happen, and there's probably 4 quarterbacks who are going to go in the first round. Redskins, you have to consider that they'll, be looking quarterback at the first pick if they don't trade for Rosen in a weird hypothetical scenario like we're talking about. And do you want to do your poll first before we go on to the other quarterbacks?
Oh, I was just letting you know. But yeah, since we brought it up here, let's do it since you brought it up.
Sure.
Okay, so, we do these polls in the off season. I don't know if we're going to do them all every week like we did before because it gets a bit tedious and it gets difficult to come up with polls that are relevant.
If we don't have a good question, it's not worth it.
Yeah, we might just skip it so don't expect us to do this every week, but we're going to get back to the polls when it's relevant, at least this year. So this week seemed like a good time to do quarterbacks. So the poll was this. Colt McCoy is currently the Redskins' only healthy quarterback. What do you think the Redskins should do about it? And the options were, 1, trade up to get Kyler Murray. Pick whoever is available at 15, select a quarterback in rounds 2 or 3, or roll with McCoy, Johnson, and a late round pick. And what I meant by I should have said McCoy free agent and a late round pick. In my head, I typed Johnson, meaning that's just probably who it's going to be. So I put out after that, if you meant McCoy and a free agent, go with number 4. And the other thing about this is the way I phrased the second option, pick whoever is available at 15. You could leave that open to not picking any. Pick BPA, and I didn't really quite mean it like that, but that's okay. So those are the options. Trade up to get Murray, pick whoever's available at 15. Second and third round quarterback or McCoy, Johnson, late round pick. So Alex, what do you think? And what do you think the people picked?
Okay, so there's three answers. One, I think the Redskins are going to go quarterback at 15 at this point. That's my gut feeling. I would actually, unless you are in love with a guy, I would probably wait till the second or third round.
I'm not in love with any guy.
Yeah, well, you know what I meant.
Yeah, I did.
But so that would be my choice. I would guess the fans. It's tough. I'm gonna either they are gonna say trade up for somebody like Kyle Murray. Let me go with that one. I think the fans will do something stupid like trade up for Murray.
There's a Kyler Murray army. I mean, that comes after. You are
is.
not allowed to criticize Kyler Murray. Because
I saw what you wrote about him on Twitter, and a lot of people weren't happy with you.
Some of that is me just like subtly jabbing these people, because
I know. You and I like to mix it up just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, because there's people out there who you say a bad word about Kyler Murray, and they're on your doorstep with pitchforks, immediately. This guy
you had a bunch of them.
This guy's like God's gift of football. Okay, well, surprisingly, also people weren't dumb. Kyler Murray choice actually came in last. We got a lot of votes on this poll too, by the way. So thank you for everybody who voted.
I think it might be one of our record highs.
No, some of the draft ones were double this amount.
Well, yeah, and I remember we had a couple retweeted by Brian Mitchell or somebody like that got into the thousands.
Yeah, somebody big retweeted a couple hours. But this was a really good poll. Okay, so the winner was pick whoever's available at 15. That was the winner with 35%. The second one was select a quarterback in rounds 2 or 3. That was 30%. And then the McCoy, Johnson / free agent, then a late round pick is 20%. And then the trade up to get Kyler Murray was only 15%. So it looks like it's a very vocal 15% perhaps. But at the end of the day, I think people are smart enough to know that that's not going to happen, nor should it happen.
It's a big risk to trade up. And I'm fine with. I kind of understand those. Were there any? Did you want to read any of the things? I don't know if you wrote any down.
Yeah, we got a lot of comments to this one, so I can't read them all. Forgive me. Okay, here's one view that was fairly common. I think this is Danny at ReyesD018. He says the 11%, and by 11% he was meaning the Kyler Murray option, are the same ones who still watch RG3 highlights. He's not worth all that stuff we're about to lose. I guess they haven't learned from RG3.
I haven't thought about that. Do you think there's some overlap there? You think there's some truth in that?
Well, I mean, it's a guy. It's a guy who they both can run, and they both have electric athleticism, and that's what Danny is getting at is
Big 12 mobile throwing quarterbacks. Yes, I get it.
Yeah, that's kind of what he's getting at. I don't know if that's a perfectly apt comparison because I think Murray's can read the field better than.
I think there's definite differences.
Yeah. Mark Tyler from Hogs Haven chimed in and said, went with pick who is available at 15, but that would depend on who the player is. He says if it were Haskins and Locke, yes. Daniel Jones, no. That's one view. That was Mark's view. Mark.
That's a perfectly reasonable view, Mark.
Yeah, that is.
And he's tweeting back and forth with us a lot these days.
Yeah, he is.
Mark Tyler.
Mark, if you want another home, come over. We'll take your riding. Steve Manella, who
openly asking for people.
We have 2 new writers, by the way.
We'll announce that at the end of the show. How about that?
All right, so stay with us for that. Okay, Steve Manella, who is at Manella Steve, chimed in. He said, stay at 15. We need the picks. Murray will be a top 5 pick. I say draft Drew Lock at 15. I don't really like Drew Lock at 15. Drew Lock. I don't really like.
You don't like Drew Lock.
Not at 15, I don't. But that's his view, and that's a reasonable view. Chris Jackson says, give me blue chip players instead of overdrafting quarterback like Daniel Jones. That's very reasonable. And let's see. I thought we had a woman in here. I always read the women. If I can find it real fast. Here it is. Okay. This is One Love.
We assume it's a woman.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, you're playing a woman on TV, if nothing else. This is One Lovely Lady C. Says, I pick who is available because I want them to either draft a wide receiver or a pass rushing linebacker, defensive end, and that's where the confusion was with the way I phrased it. But that's her view, and that's a very reasonable view. And what she's really saying is pass on the first round quarterback. That's what she's saying.
Right.
which is a reasonable view. So that's just some of the comments. Thanks to everybody who participated. Again, we got way too many comments to read them all, but we appreciate you guys.
I got to go back and read them all because I love reading comment sections.
You chimed in.
So.
You wrote one back here too.
Did I? Don't. It's not worth reading. Probably it's not that good.
Right. We'll go with Alex's comment.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk about these other quarterbacks real quick because we've seen a lot of them now. They're done, right? All the quarterbacks.
Yes, quarterbacks all went on Saturday, so I've watched them all.
All right, Steve watched them all. I've been watching them since this morning when they were doing the recaps and stuff like that.
And I've probably watched significant film on half of these guys now. I'm slowly working towards our draft quarterback preview, which is why I'm watching on.
That's going to be the big one at the end, I think. The big finale.
It's going to take me that long to get through all the rest of these guys.
Right.
Okay.
Well, but we want to really get in depth on them.
Yeah.
So who did you like from the quarterbacks that you saw? I was disappointed, I'll say right off the bat, that Murray didn't throw or do much of anything. Because if you're going to...
Why would he? Well, number one, he came in at 207 pounds, and that's not he's over his playing weight. He bulked up for the combine. Right. I don't fault him for that, but he did, and so he's not going to run the 40 when he's bulked up like that because it's going to cost him time.
Right, because he'll run a 4.6 or something.
Yeah, or whatever the time is. Right, and so he's not going to do that. So I understand that. Why didn't he pass? Well, a lot of these quarterbacks don't pass. They did this year, but many of them have declined to participate.
In the past, yeah.
The reason is...
In the past, they pass on passing.
I think as soon as he hit 5'10", which, let me tell you something, the dude must have been wearing, fake heels or something, because I still think he looks like he's 5'9" at most. But regardless, he came in at 5'10". As soon as that happened, it was over. And then all of a sudden he's a top 10 pick, and why would you endanger that by throwing? It's like for a guy like Murray and Haskins too, frankly, who are the top quarterbacks, you can only hurt yourself. I think that's why he didn't. But in terms of the guys who, at the combine, I think Dwayne Haskins was clearly the number one quarterback there, the most accurate. No, he didn't look good in the 40. He looked like he was a bit out of shape, I thought, physically.
But that's kind of he's not going to be a runner.
Yeah, and I couldn't care less that he ran a 5.0 40. Who cares?
Right.
This dude is a pocket passing quarterback.
And he's big. You know what? People will try and tackle him and not tackle him. That's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you're not going to send Dwayne Haskins out, on read option runs and stuff like that. That's not going to, or zone runs, Okay, so I thought Dwayne Haskins looked the best. Very accurate. He had a better deep ball, than I've seen sometimes from him on film. Mm-hmm. So I thought he was number one. Drew Lock was the second best out of this group, I thought. And this is Drew Lock in shorts. This is in the underwear Olympics, not in pads, because he's had a whole bunch of WTF moments that just make you scratch his head. And I know Mark Tyler, if you're listening, you love the guy, but I can't get behind that. But he has clearly the strongest arm of the group. He did well. He didn't have too many accuracy issues, which is his problem on film. So he had good film. Jarrett Stidham looked really good. Better than I thought. Better than I was prepared. If anybody of these guys, I think Stidham probably made the highest jump.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. Because Daniel Jones, the other one, he didn't impress me too much. He hadn't impressed me on film either. He's a guy who does everything in a competent manner, but he doesn't excel in any one thing. That's what I see in Daniel Jones. I think he's overrated. I don't think he's a first-round pick, or he shouldn't be. He might be, but he shouldn't be. I thought Will Grier didn't help himself. He didn't look good. You saw some inaccuracy, lack of arm strength. Brett Rippon, which I know is some people's man crush is Brett Rippon. He didn't stick out.
Some people
on the show, Alex, you're not the only one though.
I know.
The TV guys who are the experts, there, and that's Kurt Warner is standing there right there looking at him on the field, was talking about technique problems on his 5-step drop. You see his lack of arm strength. He just can't push the ball downfield. He really reminds me of Colt McCoy, in that way. That's who I think he's probably a backup in the NFL. That's just me. The wild card out of this group was Tyree Jackson.
The 6'7" guy out of Buffalo who athletic freak.
Right? Yeah, he ran about a 4.6 40. Yeah, he's 6'7". He's really taller. You talk about Kyler Murray being short, and I hate to tell you guys, by the way, Murray is short. Yeah, he came in at 5'10", but he's still the shortest quarterback in the league. And
Steve, I think you and I are both hovering in that 5'10" area.
Yes.
We would be way too short.
Yeah, right.
Now,
Tyree Jackson's the other way. He's 6'7". You also, much like you can't find a quarterback who's 5'10" or under, not named Russell Wilson or Doug Flutie, who's ever succeeded in the NFL. You also can't find a guy who's 6'7" and above who's succeeded in the NFL.
I think it's even 6'6" is rare.
That's kind of the marker. And part of the reason is you can see it in Jackson. His motion is his mechanics are kind of all over the place because he's so huge that he doesn't have a compact motion. And he's been at the University of Buffalo, and no offense to the University of Buffalo, I'm sure they're good coaches, but he's not getting pro coaching there.
Well, it's a MAC school, I think. Yeah. Or did they move to the AAC? They might have. But anyway, they're a small conference school. I look at Jackson as, if I were a team with a quarterback, I would draft him to be the
developmental
kind of like be that X-back character, the guy who just goes out, plays fullback, tight end,
he's too big.
quarterback.
I don't know. He's a pretty big guy for that. But he's so athletic. You're talking about making him into Jason Hill. Basically, with the
exactly.
Saints. It's possible. He's got a lot of arm talent. He just needs coaching and he needs development. Certainly he's not a top of the draft guy, but I think he's worth taking a shot at.
There were a lot of very athletic quarterbacks in this draft, though. McSorley out of Penn State.
Let's see.
Easton Stick.
Yeah, about a 4.63. Easton Stick looked pretty good. He looked pretty good. Passing the ball, I thought he was better than some of these other guys. This class, I think, there's not a ton of arm talent in this class. I didn't think that before the Combine, and the Combine confirmed that for me. There's the guys who have arm talent. Number one, Drew Lock. He's got the best arm. He's just he's inaccurate. We'll talk more about him later, but he's inaccurate, and he's makes a lot of weird decisions. He's got strange footwork, and I don't think he's resolved that. Dwayne Haskins has a lot of arm talent. Beyond that, there's a big group of guys in the middle. Guys like Finley, Will Greer, Daniel Jones, Rippon, is probably at the bottom end of that. Stidham, I think. All of those guys are kind of meh when it comes to arm talent. That's not like last year there were guys with a lot of arm talent, and that's just not what there is this year.
I look at this draft class, and I do see, because when I look at like Fitzgerald and Finley, to me, one of those guys is going to be another Kirk Cousins type. I don't know how or what makes me feel confident about that.
I think so. To me, it's Daniel Jones is the Kirk Cousins type.
Well, but Jones will go round one. I'm talking about a guy who's going to probably fall back into the second or third round. He'll get picked up. He might have to sit for a while, but he won't be elite. But I think you're going to find two or three guys here that end up having 10-year careers as starters.
Probably Finley and Jarrett Stidham from Auburn.
Okay.
Probably those two guys.
It's going to be somebody like that, though. There's going to be those guys. There's those guys almost every year.
Yeah.
But
it's just who are the elite guys? Who are the guys that are projecting to be elite NFL quarterbacks?
And none of these guys should project to be elite. There's no Andrew Luck here. There's no.
Haskins is the safest bet to be a solid starting, quality starting quarterback. And yes, I know for the Kyler Murray army, out there, I think there's a ton of risk with Murray. Did we talk about this before the show or on the show? I can't remember. I think it was before the show about Murray.
No, we talked a little bit about him before and on the show at this point.
Murray to me is number one. He's a 1-year starter. He only started 13 games. And that's that is not a lot of games, and it's not a lot of experience.
If you go by the old Bill Parcells, what you look for, that's a big red flag.
2 years below the Bill Parcells rule.
Yeah, he always said 30-something starts.
Yeah,
is what
it boiled down to a 3-year starter is what it boiled down to.
Yeah.
And yes, he was 5'10". He's short. I'm sorry, guys. He's short. And that's going to have a problem. If you're going to put him, he needs to be in a specific offense that keeps him on the move. And yes, I know there's a stat out there talking about how much he passed, in the pocket at Oklahoma. Oklahoma had the best offensive line in the country last year. And they were playing in the Big 12, which is known to have no defense. I think if you put Kyler Murray in a traditional West Coast drop back offense where he's got to stay in the pocket and make a decision, I just think that's not his thing. I think he needs to be in a team that's willing to put in the Seattle offense Keep him on the
Yeah, well, I mean, which is why Arizona does make a lot of sense for him. If they hadn't drafted Rosen, it would make perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, it maybe so. I still think Arizona's just trying to drive up,
I do too.
drive up their first
overall
round pick value to trade it, but who knows? Maybe not. So I think he's very risky. I don't think he fits with the Redskins, and I know a lot of people see his explosive ground, talent as a runner. We saw that in RG3. We see that in Lamar Jackson. I wish him all the best, but at the end of the day, give me a quarterback who can pass, who can be a classic pocket
You and I
passer.
both like a more traditional passer, I think.
I just think it's who succeeds in the NFL. Unless you're Cam Newton, who's like the living embodiment of Superman, who can do it all. And even he has questionable, he's got questionable accuracy.
Well, we've seen there are plenty of examples of mobile quarterbacks who have succeeded. Newton, McNabb,
Steve Young,
Mike Vick.
back in the day. Steve Young was a runner who learned how to be a pocket passer, and he could doing both.
Absolutely.
The trick is,
Cunningham.
you have to be
there's a bunch of
pocket passer to succeed in the NFL.
I think, and here's the thing to me when I look at the top two guys. If you put Haskins and Murray, if they're somehow there and you have your pick, I'm going Haskins because I watch interviews with him and I like what I hear more from him than I hear from Murray. Murray just doesn't seem interested all the time. Haskins has focus.
Haskins seems like he's got a few more cards on the deck than Kyler Murray does.
He does, and I maybe that's just how they are on camera, and I'm completely wrong. But I would rather take the guy who seems to be all there in the interview,
Yeah, and the our Twitter family out there let me know that they did not appreciate me criticizing Kyler Murray, when it came to that, which is fine, criticize away. Dwayne Haskins to me seems like the safer pick, the better pick for a Jay Gruden offense in particular. Jay wants a big dude to stand in. Don't we know this already? I just can't believe people don't understand this. Jay Gruden does not want his quarterback running all over the place. It's an added bonus.
I don't think he hates it
it's
like
an
some
added
people.
Bonus if they can do it.
Yeah.
But what Jay wants first and foremost is a dude who can stand in the pocket, go through his reads very quickly and get rid of the ball very quickly. West Coast offense style, short passes and let the receivers yak their way down the field. Does that sound like somebody to you? It sounds like Dwayne Haskins perfectly. That is what he did at Ohio State. It's a lot of dunk and dunk, and they have talent at the wide receiver position, at Oklahoma.
We've heard they've been high on Jones for a while, too, and we haven't really mentioned that. I think Jones has crept up enough draft boards where he won't be there. It's crazy to me that Haskins might be dropping on boards because of the Murray thing.
Depends on who's.
And,
it seems like to me quarterbacks, we think that, and then a bunch of quarterbacks get drafted in the first round anyway.
Yeah, I know. No, and I think that Jones, Murray, Haskins, and Locke will all be gone in the first round. I don't think anyone's making the second round from that group.
I think so. I think that you're right. I wouldn't draft Drew Lock or Daniel Jones in the first round if it were me, but I'm not.
The NFL will.
The NFL
you
will.
know that.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't think of all those guys you mentioned, I think Daniel Jones is the guy who hurt himself the most yesterday because he didn't stand out anyway. I don't know why he's a first round pick. He didn't look.
It's because of his coaching pedigree that he's got.
I suppose. And he played on Duke, and Duke, had horrible wide receivers. Just awful. Constantly dropped balls on him, and their offensive line wasn't very good. But he just, if the combine means anything, and I question what the combine means, quite honestly, a lot, he didn't stick out Saturday in any way to me.
Well, and we could talk about that because I think it might be time to move on to our next topic anyway, which is the pressers. Because to me, what the combine's most valuable for teams is getting to sit down with a bunch of players and talk to them. And in Jay Gruden's press conference and Doug Williams' press conference, they spent a lot of time kind of talking about that, like what questions they're asking these players. And, if you didn't listen to the press conferences and you just look at Twitter's all about, Gruden's talking about Alex Smith. Gruden's talking about Colt McCoy. I don't care about that stuff. There's not going to be a news update coming out of the press conference in that regard. I was more interested in hearing what Jay and Doug said about the process of the combine for them. And Doug had one quote that I think was very telling about where the Redskins are going. he was asked about what they're doing at 15. He said something like he doesn't want to trade up because they have too many needs.
Reasonable.
And he said, if there's a quarterback we like at 15 still, 9 out of 10 times we're probably going with him.
Also reasonable.
Yeah. So I think that, that tells me that we're probably going for a quarterback at 15 unless there's a run early, which there might be.
Yeah.
So, be ready that one of those 4 guys we talked about is probably going to be our quarterback.
And it's probably not going to be
one will,
Kyler Murray or Dwayne Haskins.
Probably not. It's going to be Locke or Jones or there, and we take them.
Right.
So that was the big thing Doug said that I took away from his presser. From Gruden's, I thought it was way more interesting to hear him talk about how excited he gets to just sit down and talk with these kids about their process. Apparently he has tape on every player all ready to go from everyone they're interviewing, and he just sits down and he wants to go over plays with them. That's all he wants to do.
Because he's a football guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and when Jay Gruden starts talking about that and you see him starting to smile and get excited again, it's like, see, that's why he's still a coach, because he gets excited about that part.
Wouldn't you just love to sit in a room and have him teach you about football?
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be great.
He would be the guy. He would be the right guy for that. He might not be the best on the field coach, but he's a great guy for
just
that. He probably would be a better
Jay,
GM.
Teach me what.
Yeah.
Play some film and show me what to look for. I would love to do that with him.
Yeah, I think he would be great at that. His brother's great at that. We've seen him do that on TV forever before he came back into coaching.
I think Jay's better at it, though, because John is a bit more of an oversized personality. I think Jay would
might be true.
The guy who would be willing to sit there with you and just because he likes watching film and just talk about it, and you could just soak him up.
Right. And, he was also talking about what he wants to – what hurts him the most when he's talking to guys and, what hurts their stock. And he said if a guy can't admit that he made a mistake on a play or in life, that's what takes him down on Jay's board, which I thought was an interesting thing to hear.
Again, all this is very reasonable.
Right. And anyway, so if you haven't listened to Jay's full press conference, skip the first 5 minutes and listen to the back half, because that's when it gets good.
There you go.
So that's what I would say there. Bruce had a press conference too.
Talk about Bruce. We have to talk about Bruce.
Yeah, we have to talk about Bruce because it's not what he said. He doesn't say anything interesting ever. He's Bruce Allen, and he just knows how to political speak and not say anything. He said something like, I still think we're going to get the stadium done, and we're doing great. I'm like, yeah, you're not doing great.
You're not winning off the field this year, Bruce.
No. It's been 8 years, and you've done nothing.
But tell us, okay, so...
The thing that everyone seems to talk about with Bruce is, I think it was at 9 in the morning, 8 in the morning, and okay, maybe he's not a morning person, but his eyes are all puffy and red. His hair's very unkempt for Bruce Allen. It looks like he combed about half of it and then let the other half kind of slide.
So what are you saying?
And, Bruce usually looks like he's got a full case of gel in his hair, so that's very weird. There's a lot of talk that was he hungover? Because he sounds like he's slurring a little bit.
He sounds like he was mumbling. And for those of you who know me in real life, know that I don't drink, and so I don't pick up on these things, and I never have, and so I don't pick up on these things like other people do who are boozers like Alex.
Right.
But he looks like he's a bit of a mess. And we've always heard the rumors that he's a big drinker, that, he brushes his teeth with Budweiser, that kind of thing. I got to admit, he wasn't in the greatest of shape. He really wasn't.
No, he does not look like he's in very good shape. And, this is when you guys should be recharging if you're a coaching staff or a front office. This is when you should be getting amped up and excited.
Think about it like this, though. The combine is done every day, at a reasonable hour. There's a ton of time off. Okay?
Yeah.
And they're not home, and so they don't have their wives with them. So what does this mean? This means they hit the bars.
Okay, I was going to say that it could mean a couple things.
I wasn't going there. I mean, live your personal life.
Yeah.
But this means that these guys are going to be in the bars. Probably talking football in the bars, but they're in the bars. And, that means everybody's drinking a lot. Because it's not exactly news to say that NFL front office people, generally speaking, are big drinkers. I think especially the Redskins. The Redskins have
the Redskins front office famously so, apparently.
Yeah.
That's been kind of public knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's not just Bruce. That goes to Dan. I think Jay spends his fair share of time in a bar.
Probably.
They all look like they would be very comfortable sitting back, drinking, talking football.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bruce looked rough in his press conference.
He didn't say anything. He still didn't say anything useful.
No. I think he said they're going to meet with all the quarterbacks.
He did say that.
But, and we always have the conversation. Anytime Bruce says something, is he telling the truth?
Generally not.
Because, he said, we weren't in on Flacco. I don't think anyone believes him.
No.
So you never know about that. I thought Jay's press conference, he's still tired. Some other things he pointed out, though, this one was interesting to me because outside of quarterback, our next biggest need on offense, in my mind, is still wide receiver. I know guard's a big one, but wide receiver is a big need for us.
Yes.
Jay, now, I don't know about you, Steve. I think we need a speed receiver.
Well,
I think that's our
go back
top
to what
need.
Mark Bullock on our show said it kind of best, I thought. The one thing that they have that's solid, at least they're locked into, is Paul Richardson. Paul Richardson is a classic Z receiver. He's not. He can do the X
stuff. Okay.
Yeah, he has before, but he's really the Z receiver, and he's never really played a slot guy. So what they really have is a bad number one receiver in Josh Doxson, who needs to go and is a bust. And then you have nobody at the slot. I mean, and there's a Trey Quinn army out there too. But the simple fact of the matter is, we've seen Trey Quinn for like
he's
5
not
minutes.
proven.
Yeah. And so I think Redskins would be dumb to just rely on Trey Quinn, And so I think what they need, to me, is an X and a slot guy. And
when you say an X, you mean specifically a big body physical receiver.
Number one physical receiver. And who does that sound
and
like?
Jay Gruden apparently agrees with that. That's what he was saying his need is higher at. Is he wants a good flanker.
And by
big
the way,
guy.
Does anybody out there know the receiver at the draft who specifically said he liked what the Redskins coaching staff told him?
Yes, it was the number one receiver prospect in this draft, and probably the number one receiver prospect we've seen in a couple years.
It was Batman.
And DK Metcalf.
Batman himself. If you haven't seen this yet, you've been living under a rock. But this dude just annihilated the combine. He came out at 6'3" and 3/8, 228 pounds. 4.3, 340, 40.5 inch vertical leap. Just insane.
1% body fat, like you said.
I don't believe that. I don't think any human could have 1.9% body fat. But he's regardless all muscle. He truly looks exactly like Batman in terms of his build. It's crazy.
Yeah, insane. And in his press conference. And by the way, I looked up. DK stands for Decalen Metcalf. So, good move going with DK over Decalen.
There you go, yeah. The problem is, he did so well at the combine, and he looked like the best receiver, by the way, too. When you watch the drills, he looks smooth. Sometimes you can tell these big guys, and sometimes the elite talent, they don't look like they're natural hands catchers. You look at that, the gauntlet drill seems dumb, but what the gauntlet drill shows to me is the people who can catch the ball natural. You can kind of see the guys who have to look the ball in their hands. They don't really know what to do with it. They have to make a conscious decision with what to do with the ball, and he wasn't like that. He just catches it, and I thought he looked like he was very clearly the number one guy.
I think he shot up from being a prospect that the Skins could probably have gotten at 15 to now I think he's a top 5 pick potential.
Yeah,
like he's that good.
Yeah, that's the problem. He did so well. He probably just priced himself out of the Redskins, in terms of draft.
Right.
The other guy, N'Keal Harry. First one, probably a first-round draft pick. He's more realistic for the Redskins. 6'2" and 3/8, not quite as fast. He's a mid 4.5 type of fast. He didn't look like he had quite the same level of natural hands as did Metcalf. And Metcalf has flaws, by the way. I mean, he's apparently a little bit, rough in his route running. He's been a bit injury prone. It's the other thing, and Lord knows we've been down that road. N'Keal Harry has an outstanding college coach. He's got not Dungy. Who's the other guy? Who's the coach at Arizona State?
I know who you're talking about. Why am I blanking? Edwards.
Thank you. Yeah, Herm Edwards is the coach. At Arizona State. So N'Keal Harry is a viable number one, receiver option. So those two guys, there were others. Like Travis Fulgham at ODU. who our buddy Robbie Duncan really likes and speaks highly of him. Another big guy, good route runner, decent hands. The guy who kind of blew away the combine, other than Metcalf, thank you, was Paris Campbell. Now, Paris Campbell is more of a slot guy, big slot guy.
Yeah, he looks like a Deshaun Jackson clone to me.
He is a Deshaun Jackson clone. He's exactly a Deshaun Jackson clone. Deshaun Jackson was the Z guy here, though. This is the problem. Deshaun Jackson was not a slot guy. So you'd have to, the coaches who know better than us would have to decide. But, he ran about a 4.3 40, looked very smooth. He really stuck out in terms of combine. So I think he made himself some money over the weekend. He might be a
late first rounder at this point.
Yeah, late first round, second round, kind of, that's where he is. So I think those
good speed, but he's only like 5'10", right?
He's 5'11". He's not big. He is big. He's bigger than you think. He measured out at a hair under 6 feet. He measured out at 5'11" and 7/8 and 206 pounds.
Quite literally Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, it may be
size.
A tiny bit bigger than Deshaun Jackson, but he's got that level of speed. He's unbelievably fast. He truly is. Deshaun Jackson is his best comp. So that would be a guy. If you want a playmaker, there he is. The problem is you've got Paul Richardson. So I think the better pick for the Redskins, or if you're going receiver first round, it's DK Metcalf, N'Keal Harry.
Metcalf would be a dream come true if we could get Metcalf.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who the quarterback will be, but he'll have an easy target for a couple years.
Can I just say, you brought up a really good point just now. The fact that Colt McCoy is the only quarterback on the roster right now is not a reason to not get playmakers. Right. I'm sick and tired of seeing comments like this. No, I don't want the Redskins to trade for Antonio Brown, but it's not because we don't have a quarterback. It's because Antonio Brown is a pain-in-the-butt diva who's 31 and has a huge contract. That's why you don't want Antonio Brown. You don't not get a playmaker because the quarterback situation isn't great or is awful, to be fair.
Well, and let's also say, if you get a guy like Metcalf, I'm with you on Antonio Brown, but if you have a guy like that, it makes a guy like Colt McCoy suddenly look a lot better.
Exactly. Of course it does. And so,
I mean, our dearth of talent at wide receiver ever since we let Garcon and Jackson go, it's been pathetic.
It is. The Redskins, you could argue the Redskins have the worst wide receiver group in the league. Particularly
I wouldn't even argue it.
Particularly now that James Crowder is gone. And listen, James Crowder, decent player, quality slot guy. He's been our best receiver for several years, and that says a lot about the receiver group.
And he's never been a 1,000-yard guy.
No, it says a lot about the receiver group.
Yeah, he's a 500 to 800 yard a season type slot receiver, which is good. That you need one, but you don't just have that and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, other guys who stuck out for me in the combine, Miles Boykin. Another tremendous athlete, 43.5-inch vertical. I am not sure how natural receiver he is, but there's that. McCole Hardman, I thought, did fairly well. Another burner, 5'10" burner. There's your slot guy right there.
Right.
Lil Jordan Humphrey, slower than molasses, ran a 4.75, but he's a better receiver than you might think. The only thing he doesn't have is...
And still the best name in the draft,
particularly since
in my
he's
opinion.
Almost 6'4". There's nothing little about
Little
this guy.
Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah. But I think he's a better receiver than you might think. It's just he's too slow. Andy Isabella, burner, UMass, quality receiver, another guy who could come in here and be a playmaker, did well. Hunter Renfrow, Clemson, good hands. Riley Ridley from Georgia, another guy, looks like he's going to be a quality receiver. Debo Samuel obviously did well, but he's a Z guy. We don't know if we necessarily need him. So that's just a kind of a brief summary. I could talk about this all day. The one guy we didn't see was Marquise Brown from Oklahoma. He has a Liz Frank injury. And, Miss Frank is a naughty mistress, and you don't know what that's going to do to people. That's going to cost him big time. I think he would have been a first-round pick because he's up there with Paris Campbell in terms of speed and quickness. He has the nickname Hollywood for a reason. But, it's with the Liz Frank, you just don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know if he may be off people's draft boards for all we know with that. So.
Yeah, because we've seen it. What happens when you draft a receiver who's already injured?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll never forget the whole wide receiver, tight end, wide receiver draft that destroyed Jim Zorn and Vinny Serrato.
Yeah, and you're talking about Malcolm Kelly and
Devin Thomas.
And
neither of them ever were healthy.
Yeah, and then Fred Davis, who
Yeah.
can stay off the weed.
Yeah.
In terms of, by the way, speaking of tight ends, I don't know what you think, Alex. I don't know if you ever expressed your opinion about my let's cut Jordan Reed thought.
I don't think I've ever been solidly in your. I'm not solidly in your corner about that. I understand it because it's you and I are probably inverse on this. I don't necessarily want to get rid of Jordan Reed. I'd rather get rid of Trent Williams. You and I have argued about that one.
Yeah.
You feel the way about Reed. I feel the way about Williams.
Okay, well, fair enough. Yeah. So the reason I say that is there's some impressive tight ends this year. There's
like 4 or 5 really good ones this year.
Yeah, there's 3 of them that really stick out. T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, and then Irv Smith Jr. from Alabama. And I wasn't prepared for Irv Smith to be as good as he was. Hawkinson has it all. He's big. He's almost 6'5". He can block. He's a really good blocker. He's a classic inline tight end, but he's got great hands. Great hands.
Yeah.
He's more athletic than you might think. He's running 4.7 40-ish. The announcers on the combine used Heath Miller as a comp, and that's a heck of a good comp. Noah Fant just burned down the city of Indianapolis with his athleticism. He's not a blocker. He's more of a Jordan Reed type. He's not an inline tight end. So if you're looking to get rid of Jordan Reed, Noah Fant is the guy to go grab to replace him. Great hands.
And I mean, it would be a big target receiver.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's one that you didn't mention that, and that was the kid from USC who I saw did pretty well.
Yeah, he did. You're talking about.
Or I'm sorry, UCLA, I think.
You're talking about Caleb Wilson.
Yeah.
You were throwing me off there a little bit. Yeah, Caleb Wilson.
Sorry, California schools,
He's another guy who's an H-back type, though. He's not an inline tight end. He ran. Right. He also ran in the 4.5s. Ran a 4.56 40.
Very similar. Another very Jordan Reed-like kind of guy.
He looks very thin, though. He looks like he's not as solidly built as even Reed. To me,
yeah, because he's listed at 240, but he looks like he's more like 220.
Yeah, he does. He does. He looks. I don't think if you want an inline tight end, that's not him. If you want he can do everything sort of H-back guy, a more advanced version of Chris Cooley. A better version of Chris Cooley, that's Caleb Wilson. So I wouldn't be upset.
I would not be upset about that.
No, but if you're looking for a guy who can block, because Lord knows the Redskins need a tight end who can block, I wouldn't be upset if they drafted T.J. Hawkinson in the first round. Even with having Reed on the roster.
Well, I mean, you're assuming he'd just be put in as the number 2 guy, and it'd be so long to Vernon Davis.
Yeah, I'm just assuming at this point, how could they keep Vernon? I love you, Vernon. He's a DC guy, University of Maryland, but I mean, it's time for him to go. I'm just assuming that's going to happen. Maybe they won't.
Hang it up, become a coach. That's what I'd tell him.
Yeah,
because he's a smart dude. He'd make a good coach.
Yeah, Irv Smith, more athletic than I thought. I just have a natural predisposition against Alabama for a variety of reasons, and so sometimes it makes me to overlook some of these Alabama guys who deserve it.
The opposite of the Redskins, basically.
Yeah. Sometimes I overlook Alabama guys in my head unintentionally because I just don't. I hate Nick Saban, like with the fire of 1,000 suns. I just don't like Nick Saban. But Irv Smith, he's another guy, small H-back type, 6'3", 240. Runs in the high 4.6s, but he's athletic. He's got good hands. I don't know if he's much of a blocker, but he's another. I think he's probably the number 3 tight end. So
okay. And I know we're primarily going to be talking about guys that were on TV this Saturday because Sunday we're recording this as they're doing linemen and linebackers.
Yeah, I watched the defensive tackle group.
Did you?
Yeah, we're recording this during edge rushers, and so we're missing edge rushers. But the Redskins, like Alex, did a really good defensive tackle write up this past week, and he's not going to cover Quinnen Williams. You can just talk about what you said.
Okay, so what I basically said in my write up is if the Redskins draft anybody, it's not going to be till the 6th or 7th round. So why bother covering guys like Williams who? He had a ridiculously good 40, I think 4.8. 40, and so now people are projecting him potentially as a number one guy,
Could be
number one overall. And yes, he's that good. So I'm not going to really talk about that. I've focused more on back of the draft guys. There was one guy in particular who, small school guy, had a great Senior Bowl. I'm trying to remember what his name is because I don't have the article in front of me that I wrote.
While you look that up, I mean, it's the last guy on your write up, Alex. This is
Kalen Sanders from Western Illinois, I believe.
Here's the thing about this group. This is a very athletic defensive tackle. This is very deep, very athletic group. The Redskins would be wise to pick somebody up just because it's a good idea to keep drafting linemen. But I think if they waited till the 6th or 7th round, knowing that the starters are set, you got Allen, you got Payne, you got Alex's lover, Matt Ioannidis. Those are your starters. Do you need a rotational guy? Absolutely. Can you get that in this group in the 5th, 6th, 7th round? Absolutely you can, because this group is that athletic.
And keep in mind, there's 2 or 3 guys on the roster still anyway. There's the kid from Virginia Tech and Settle, and I think there's at least one more guy who's under contract right now.
Yeah, well, and you've got Stacey McGee, also.
Oh, yeah, and McGee, who I think we all kind of say is going to be a cap casualty.
It may be time for Stacey McGee. JoJo Wicker is still on the roster. He didn't play last year much. They could probably use a rotational guy. Tim Settle's an interior guy. He's more of a nose tackle. It
kind of settles that nose position.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if he can play, because we really don't know if he can play.
Well, you know what I mean. He's a body for the nose position.
Exactly. So anyway, point is, it's a very athletic, very deep defensive tackle group. So they can get one.
The one guy who I would love to see, but I think he'll probably go too high at this point, is that kid from Western Illinois, Kalen Sanders, who small school Division II guy, but he was easily the best player. Every game he played,
he looked good
in those games.
He looked good Sunday morning. He did.
Yeah.
He's athletic. He's an athletic guy. So, the bigger need obviously is the linebackers and the edge rushers, and we're just gonna have to talk about that next week.
Our linebackers really haven't done anything yet, I don't think.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to talk about them next week because we just haven't watched them.
Right, edge rushers. I'm looking as 40 times are coming in. Someone, Jamal Davis, who I didn't really even look at, from Akron, had a 4.6 40. Chase Winovich from Michigan did pretty. You got some speed here. There's a lot of talent at edge rushers.
And listen, if Josh Allen happens to be there at 15, run to the podium.
Montez Sweet 4.4 40.
That's just crazy. He's significantly faster than Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yes, he is.
Would torch Lil Jordan Humphrey in any race. That's crazy.
Same with Brian Burns, 4.5. So you got some.
It's a very deep edge rusher class too.
It is a deep edge. Somebody was saying that this is a kind of class that you'll get a first-round edge rusher in the 2nd or 3rd round. I can't remember who.
For the Redskins, though, Preston Smith is going to be gone.
So they need an edge rusher.
Yeah, and it doesn't break my heart that he's gone, quite honestly. I know PFF likes him, and that makes me happy that I'm not that upset that he's gone because PFF are run by idiots. But they need a starter, so they are going to draft an edge rusher high.
Yeah, agreed.
Whether it's a defensive end and try to convert to linebacker, who knows? The Redskins have a history of drafting like these big, stout.
There are a couple guys in this draft who are good, who are like true linebackers, edge rusher types too.
Yeah, the Redskins have a type. It seems like in the past several years they've drafted a string of like these big, stout, muscly guys who aren't speed rushers and aren't very athletic. You've got the druggie Murphy, who's gone.
Yeah.
Preston Smith. Ryan Kerrigan. All these guys are kind of the same.
Because Kerrigan worked out for them, so they keep on trying to find guys in that mold. I think is what's going on.
A hyper athletic guy coming off the left side.
I'm with you. And Montez would definitely be that. Absolutely. He's insanely athletic and fast.
Probably at 15 too.
He might be. He would be a good candidate to be there.
And he's from the SEC. He's not from Alabama, but he is from the SEC. So listen,
SEC does put out good defenders. Isn't that generally the rule of thought?
Well, I just it's if Bruce likes Alabama. Mississippi State may be the next best thing, but he's running a 4.4 40. My God, that's crazy. He's a big dude too.
260. Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, he's if you drafted him, I assume the plan would be you draft him, he's going to replace Kerrigan in a year or two as the guy.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I like Kerrigan, but he's 30. You got to start thinking about long term.
Well, yeah. Right now they need a starter. On the right side.
Right. And finding a guy like that it's not a bad plan. It's just the Redskins have so many other holes that it's tough.
They need a bunch of starters. They need a safety.
Mm-hmm.
They need an edge rusher. They need a quarterback. They need wide receivers. They need a better linebacker. They have massive needs, and they're all not going to be filled in 1 year. We say this every year, because it never improves. But this year, maybe more than others, there are a bunch of huge holes. And
absolutely.
And they're just people aren't going to be happy because whatever they draft around 1 or 2, it's going to leave a hole. Somewhere that doesn't get filled, and that's just
right.
They don't have enough picks. There's a way. That's all.
And I mean, I think you will be able to find, because it's a good defensive draft. You will, like in the 5th round, because we don't have a 4th round pick still, unless they make some trades.
Right.
But I think in the 5th round, you will still maybe not find starters, but like when you talk about linebacker, you can find depth linebackers, rotation guys to play linebacker in the 5th round still. You can find good depth at corner in the 5th and 6th round. Because we've seen the Redskins do that time and time again. A lot of our better corners end up being day 3 picks.
Yeah, and they don't really need a starting corner this year is the other thing.
No, they need a nickel or a dime, but not a starter.
Right. I mean, so what they need is a guard. They don't have a starting left guard. They need a left defensive end / outside linebacker.
Right.
They need a quarterback. They need a wide receiver. Those are their major and safety. Those are their 5 major needs.
And you only have 4 picks in the top 100 to do that.
Right.
So
you got to figure that you're going to see all of those in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and something's going to get left out. There's 4 picks.
Something's going to get left out, and I hate to say it because I think it's actually a pretty big need. It's not a great safety class after the 1st round, from what I can tell. I haven't really studied safeties, but you don't see a lot of them going high on any boards.
Yeah. No, you don't. I mean that may be the one where they go after it in free agency, and they just bring Clinton Dix back, or if they can get Landon Collins at strong safety, great. But that's probably unlikely.
Well, and Monte Nicholson is going to be suspended part of the year, but
right.
you assume he can come back and at least contribute.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it's Monte Nicholson. And that's not exactly – that doesn't inspire a ton of confidence that we're going to have like
it's not the worst thing in the world either. We've seen worse.
At least it would be a body,
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. My gut tells me of the big needs, the big 5 that we just mentioned, that'll be the one that gets left out.
Yeah, but my gut is telling me that the Redskins are going to do something crazy. Because
I think they will.
They have
but I think they'll do it in the free agency.
Yeah, I mean, they have to bring in, from their perspective, they have to do something to energize the fan base. So I think they're going to make a big move, and it's probably going to be dumb, and it's going to make people mad, and it's going to backfire because that's just what the Redskins do.
It's going to be something like they trade Josh Norman for somebody, or
Joe Flacco, some Joe Flacco-like move,
Yeah. Some other washed-up player who's not going to be part of the long-term solution.
Yeah, you're going to pay Antonio. You're going to bring Antonio Brown in and give him a contract extension and pay him a fortune and trade away a bunch of draft picks and
Right.
Yeah.
I hope they don't. I know I mentioned this before. Doug Williams pretty clearly said he doesn't want to get rid of picks. They want to come out of this draft with 10 players.
I don't know how much these guys talk though. Because Doug Williams brought in Adrian Peterson and supposedly didn't tell anybody.
Well, he told Jay. He didn't tell Bruce or Dan. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm all for it. I trust Doug a lot more than I do Bruce or Dan for sure about that kind of thing. So I just wonder. Yeah, Doug may say that, but he may not get a vote. At the end of the day, he just might not get a vote. Because Bruce Allen sprinkles his, Dan Snyder mind control dust, and it's just going to tell like he has. He's either got naked pictures of Dan Snyder or he's got mind control dust. It has to be one of those two things.
What does he keep it in? Do you think he keeps it in a little sack in his pocket? A little
I think he's got either he's got a necklace that we can't see that's got a little vial on it.
Oh, okay, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So he can just, whenever he's in there, he can just kind of, lean over and sprinkle it in Dan's tequila.
Right.
When
I think Dan's a Scotch guy, but yes,
probably so, because that's like a more hoity-toity elite, Scotch. So
right.
So when they're drinking Scotch at 10 in the morning, and Dan just sprinkles some of that powder in him, that covers him for like a week or something.
Hey Dan, we should make a trade for Odell Beckham.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that's going to happen this offseason, and it's going to backfire spectacularly. That's my prediction.
Of course.
Yeah, because it's the Redskins.
Yes. Yep. That's how it always goes, because that's what we are as a team.
And yet here we are talking about it for an hour.
Yep. Hour and 4 minutes is what my count's at. So I think that, that should kind of wrap up the day. I don't think we had anything else on the list.
I don't think so.
Scanning. Nope. All right. So I guess, folks, check back in next week.
Wait. We writers.
Oh, yes. We have to announce our writers. You have both their. I know their first names, so you have their full names in front of you, right?
Yeah, our new writers. Let's go with
one of
first
them wanted
name.
to go by pseudonym, so just call him.
Yeah, well, Eric and Jay are going to be our new writers.
Okay.
So thanks everybody who wrote in. We got some great submissions. We got a lot more interest than I thought we'd get, quite honestly. That's
I thought we'd get like 2 or 3, and you have us reading about 100 pages of submissions.
Yeah, we had a lot of good ones, and that was good. And that makes me feel good. And thank you to everybody, and look for their work, Eric and Jay, this coming week.
Right. And next week we'll be back. We'll finish up talking about combine results, the last couple positions that we didn't get to. And I guess free agency starts next week, right?
Yep. Free agency starts.
So that'll be fun. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. It'll be a big
So
offseason.
hopefully,
and to the Redskins,
and hopefully
please.
Sean and Jamal are back.
Yeah, hopefully, Sean's not dead. That's my fear.
Yes. Sean, don't be dead. Don't do it.
All right.
Take care of yourself, everybody.